Welcome to the Houston Chamber Choir's Behind the Music podcast. I'm Simpson, Flynn, and I'm very pleased to be able to welcome the founder and artistic director of the Chamber Choir, Robert Simpson.
Hi, Sid.
And we also have Deborah Edquist, who is a member of the University of Houston Concert Chorale, performing with the Houston Chamber Choir, and Franco Basili, who is the choral intern for the choir. And the next concert is coming up on Saturday, November 11th in the evening at St. Thomas Episcopal Church in Milan, Houston. And Robert, it's a program titled Byrds of a Feather. That's B-Y-R-D.
Correct.
Because we're celebrating the 400th
anniversary of William Byrd's death.
And who is he?
William Byrd is the great example of high Renaissance music in England, credited by his contemporaries as being the father of English music. He was an important political figure as well as a musical figure, and his contemporaries saw in him an example that they wanted to emulate. And so in Birds of a Feather, we are not only looking at William Byrd's music, but his teacher and colleague, Thomas Tallis, and then his students, including Orlando Gibbons and Thomas Weelkes and Thomas Morley. So in this one concert, we sum up the great period of time when English Renaissance music came to its greatest heights.
And this was a time of political and religious turmoil. This was the transition from Henry VIII all the way through to Queen Elizabeth, and that tension between Protestantism and Catholicism.
Well, William Byrd actually was active during the reign of 5 monarchs, ranging from Henry VIII through James I. But during that time, as each monarch changed, the monarch's religious preference became the law of the land.
Right.
And so when Henry VIII moved away from the Catholic Church to found the Church of England, he asked all of the composers to start to write for that new church. And Byrd and Tallis and the others did exactly that. But then when Mary Tudor came on the throne, Protestantism was dangerous to your health, and everyone became more active as writing music for the Catholic Church. William Byrd was a Catholic from his birth to his death. Never once did he renounce his faith, and yet he remained in favor despite all of those changes of monarchs, and was really a central figure in the life of the music world. He and Thomas Tallis had a license. They had a monopoly on the writing, on the publication of printed music. Even lined staff paper could only be purchased with their license. So they were given a great deal of influence by Elizabeth particularly.
There are a couple of terms that are relevant here that I wonder if you could define for us. The first one being polyphony.
Polyphony is a compositional style in which individual lines are written in a horizontal fashion, primarily following the rules of that horizontal line. They are also lining up vertically, but that's almost coincidental. It's an art that is like weaving a tapestry, and the threads carry from beginning to end in a vertical fashion. That's polyphony.
Motet.
Motet is a Latin piece of sacred nature.
And finally, madrigal.
A madrigal is a secular art form, and we will not be performing any madrigals. This will all be sacred music for the Catholic Church and for the Protestant Church.
The big piece on the program, the piece that you open with is Thomas Tallis's Spem in alium.
Correct.
Why is that such a lauded piece of music? What is it about this piece that draws people to it and makes a choir want to perform it?
All right. Well, first of all, it's so massive that the mind boggles that it was possible for a person to write 40 independent lines. There are 8 choirs of 5 voices each, and they are independent lines, each one of them active. There's no filler. Everyone is working very hard. And so that concept actually came to England as the result of the visit of Alessandro Strigio in 1567. And he brought with him a 40-part motet.
It's written for 40 voices, and there are not 40 voices in the Houston Chamber Choir, which is why you were collaborating with the University of Houston Concert Chorale.
That's right, and I'm so glad to have an opportunity. We have actually performed this piece with members of the Concert Chorale twice before, and it was a wonderful good fortune when Dr. Betsy Weber said that her schedule and the singers' schedules at the University of Houston would allow them to join us for this concert. So they are supplying the choirs 6, 7, and 8 of the 8 choirs, and that brings Deborah to this wonderful project.
Well, Deborah, is this a work that you have sung before?
No, certainly not, and nothing like it either at all. It's very complex, and the focus required throughout about 10 minutes of singing is very, very difficult to do. Yes.
It's one of those. It's almost like a ski jump, isn't it? You sort of you set yourself off, and you just have to go with it, don't you? Once you start, it's the inexorable march of time.
Right.
What are the challenges of a piece like this for you as a singer?
For me as a singer, well, in our rehearsal, it's really been about the focus of the tuning, especially because, 16th century music, the vocal demands of this kind of music from this time period, the sort of sense of vibrato that the piece requires and that style requires. And also, I think there is a particular sort of difficulty of the half note being the beat, rather than the standard quarter note that we see in a lot of Western music in general. And so there's a lot of rhythmic intricacies that we have to find our way through.
Bob, for you as the conductor of this piece, what is it that you are particularly concerned about? It's not a fast piece, is it? It's a very deliberate pace.
The pulse is deliberate, but there is a lot of activity going on between those pulses. So my main role in rehearsal is to make sure that everything is lining up, that the pitches are correct. There are a number of times when the choirs are answering back and forth, and they have to be answering back in exactly the same way at exactly the same pitch. In performance, I'm going to be a human metronome. There is just a great deal of chance for a slight variation in tempo in one choir or even one singer to throw us off. And so my goal is going to be to rehearse the choir so that they have a sense of security in pitch, but also in pulse, so that we just are locked in and move together without any bit of hesitation from the downbeat to the cutoff.
And Deborah, are you able to, while you're focused on your particular line, which is so unique, are you able to take in the whole or aural experience, if you like?
That has been something that has evolved since when I first looked at the piece, because at first, you really focus on your own line, and then, you move on to the next stage of, okay, how does it fit in with my choir, with the rest of the people in my quintet? And then you start figuring out what you need to adjust in your own voice so you can fit within your own choir, and then you think even bigger. So as I've been rehearsing with the 3 choirs that we will, the 3 choirs that will be joining the Houston Chamber Choir later this evening, then we move to that scale of, okay, how can I fit my sound into these 3 choirs? And so tonight, I imagine that will be even further evolved with all 8 of the choirs. And even listening to the piece, I even found myself, when I first was exposed to it, I have no idea where my part fits into this. It's just sort of it's like, I think the best way I could describe it is like bees around you, and just like the buzz, 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 and then light, buzz, 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 buzz. but I think, yes, as it has evolved, I have been able to appreciate further the oral experience that the piece provides.
And also, I will add something. It's interesting. Well, we don't have the full score right here, but the singers of the choir cannot have a full score because it's
so
this
big.
big, it's massive.
Right.
So sometimes, because I'm a singer, I'm singing also in the same choir that is singing. So we don't get the full picture. We only have our own part, our own choir, and a reduction with the small notes of the other choirs in our own score, because it has to fit in this side, you know. So that also adds a layer of complexity of about performing this piece. Normally in a choir you can read easily the other parts and follow them. So
Is there one line that predominates? No.
There are moments when the sopranos of each choir repeatedly sing a high G. And so there are moments that you hear that one voice coming above the others. But other than that, there is no other moment in which one voice predominates over the other.
Well, Franco, you said that you're singing in the Spem in alium, but you're also conducting as well, aren't you?
exactly. In this concert particularly, I will be conducting When David Heard by Weelkes. It's a pretty interesting piece, and among like all the prep, because normally Bob sent me the whole list of music that will be performing with the choir in the concert, and I get to pick one of the selections. So I just hear When David Heard and moved me immediately. So that's why I picked it. It's probably one of the most dramatic moments of the Old Testament, because I mean David found out that his son was killed in battle.
The Absalom.
Absalom was killed in battle, exactly. So the piece basically depicts all the moments and all the emotions that David go through when the soldiers informed him that his son was killed.
Now, this is not a 40-part piece,
No.
is it?
No, this is a 6-part piece, and yeah, it's a pretty. I mean, we as you asked at the very beginning, this is an English anthem. It's not exactly a motet, but it's written in the form of motet. But the difference is it's not in Latin. It's pretty straightforward in English. And we will have points of imitation. We will have points of homophonic passages where all the voices are lined up. But then there will be, for instance, moments of that I found like there are kind of confusion, like this idea of like what just happened, what's going in David's mind, where it's depicted in an imitative form, where like you can hear like the same thing in the different voices at a different time. So it's a great piece.
This is a horribly unfair question, but I'm going to ask it. What is the beauty of this music? What is it that really makes it a standout and that people want to sing it so much?
I think in general, like the Renaissance music, especially the sacred Renaissance music overall, has a special soul. I would like to describe it that way, because there is a devotion in general, like intent of the composer to bring into music or try to highlight the text into the music setting in a way that will elevate the soul of the audience. You know,
you are the choral intern this year for the Houston Chamber Choir. What is it that there is a learning element to that? What is it that you are taking away from this particular concert?
Well, the first thing is facing professional singers. It's not the same to work with students. It's not the same way to face like a rehearsal with a church choir where you have volunteer singers. Here, normally the singers are highly prepared, and you you have to let the music speaks by itself. So sometimes I found myself trying to teach them the way they have to sing, but they are professional. I don't need to do that. So I just need to be like a medium that will let the music unfold and bring the best capacity of them. And it implies that I have to be highly prepared every time that I stand in front of the choir. And that's a big challenge, improve my listening in rehearsal on the spot to be able to address mistakes in the choir.
Have you been watching Bob as he's conducting the Spem alium?
Yes, not fully, because we are in the stage of preparation, and tonight will be the first time we have the 8 choirs together. And I'm a pretty good observant, and normally I sit over there and observe Bob and the way he leads the choir. I'm pretty interested, to see how he will put this music together, because I would love to do it by myself in the future.
It should be said that Franco is pursuing his doctorate in conducting at the University of Houston, and the choral interns are always people who are at that level, and Dr. Weber and I each year talk about who might be the choral intern from her doctoral candidates, and I was very, very pleased that Franco was suggested this year. So this is an educational component, an enrichment to the wonderful work that he is getting to do at the University of Houston. Working with the chamber choir is an added element to his educational portfolio.
It's almost like the Spem alium is one of those things that on your bucket list that you can tick off because you've conducted it, you've sung it, it
doesn't get done very often.
Right.
And having a chance to do it with this wonderful ensemble is definitely something that I am going to be enjoying every second.
Now, the other composers, the other pieces on the program, the Weelkes, as you mentioned, and Thomas Morley and William Byrd, and I think there's even Orlando Gibbons. They have a rarefied place within English music as well, don't they?
Absolutely. Their music is extraordinary. Byrd was a student of Thomas Tallis, and Morley, Gibbons, and Weelkes were students of Byrd. So we have really 3 generations of English composers, and their music is extraordinary.
Well, that is the Houston Chamber Choir presenting Birds of a Feather at St. Thomas Episcopal Church in Mireland, Houston, on Saturday, November 11th at 7:30. Thank you very much to our guests, to Robert Simpson, to Deborah Edquist, and to Franco Basili. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.